Halo, selamat malam teman-teman Cahaya Tanah Jawa. Berikut ada video dramatis tentang pembebasan 13 sandera Israel yang berhasil dibebaskan dalam negosiasi gencatan senjata antara kelompok Hamas dan Israel. Para sandera sebanyak 13 orang ini dibebaskan atas dasar kesepakatan gencatan senjata selama 4 hari dengan konsekuensi para tahanan teroris Hamas yang berada di penjara Israel juga sepakat untuk dibebaskan, dan untuk lebih jelasnya kita saksikan video berikut ini dari BBC News.
With that breaking news, things very fluid, the situation changing all of the time, but Israel, their media says 13 hostages held by Hamas in Gaza have been handed over to the Red Cross. These are some of the recent pictures. They are thought now to be in Egypt under that deal brokered by Qatar. Most of them, we know, are children. Now, from the Rafah border crossing with Egypt, ultimately they'll be taken to a military airbase in southern Israel, then on to an Israeli hospital, and ultimately reunited with their families. Now, as that is happening, Thailand's Prime Minister confirmed a little earlier that 12 Thai hostages have also been released today, all of them men, as part of a separate deal with Hamas. Now, under the main deal, 39 Palestinian prisoners are also due to be released from Israeli jails later in the day. Now, the Red Cross says it is facilitating the release and transfer of both the hostages and prisoners. And of course, there is now a 4-day pause in the fighting. It's 11 hours old, but it is holding. And as a result, convoys of aid trucks have already headed into Gaza. So those are the key planks as we look again at those pictures of those Red Cross vehicles just going through the crossing point. That happened about 20 minutes ago. Let's go back to Anna Foster. She's there in Tel Aviv. And Anna, it's worth for anyone just joining us, you explaining where you are, because so many people gathered there, just like they have been for weeks, just waiting for this moment, which will be such an important moment for Israel after 7 weeks.
That's right, Matthew. This place, this square outside the Tel Aviv Museum of Art is known as Hostages Square now. And this is a place where many of the hostages' families have come on regular occasions. They've come here for vigils, they've come here sometimes for protests. Just a couple of days ago, I was talking to the mother of one of the hostages, and they had come here to hold a piano concert in his honor. He was a keen piano player. So this is really the hub, the focal point for many of the hostages' families, for many people across Israel. And that is why you've seen the crowds building here. You see the posters, the faces, the names of these hostages that are on everything from stickers to posters to big, lit up billboards around Tel Aviv and around the country. And people are gathering here now, waiting for confirmation that those hostages have been released. Now, as we were saying, an Israeli security source has said that those hostages are now in the hands of Israeli security services, but it appears not yet actually physically inside Israel, because as we were saying, they pass out of Gaza into Egypt first of all, and then Israeli security services will bring them eventually back into Israel once again. We also have a quote. Now, one of the main Israeli news channels, Channel 13, is saying that the head of Magen David Odom, which is the Israeli ambulance service, says that 13 Israeli hostages are in good condition and speaking, because I think that was a key part of this deal as well. And in fact, when we heard the Qataris announce it yesterday, we brought you that press conference here on BBC News. One of the questions that was asked as part of that press conference is, are all of those hostages that are being released, those 13, are they alive? Are they well? Because of course these are vital questions that people don't necessarily know the answer to. But the Israeli ambulance service, MDA, says that the 13 Israeli hostages who are being released today on day one of this 4-day deal are in good condition and are speaking. And I think the choreography of what we see today is important as well, because this will hopefully, people here are hoping that they will see this repeated over the next 4 days. This is sort of the third part of what will happen today. It started with a ceasefire. We saw additional trucks of humanitarian aid pass into Gaza. The next step will be the confirmation of the release of those hostages. We've seen, and we see those pictures again of those Red Cross jeeps coming out of Gaza through the Rafah crossing into Egypt. All very positive signs, all small steps along the way. The next stage, I think, will be the official confirmation from Israel that those hostages have been returned home, that they're back on Israeli soil. And then that will trigger, if you like, the fourth part of this deal, which is the release of Palestinian prisoners who are being held in Israeli jails. We've been watching as well those live pictures of Ofer prison in the West Bank. It's an Israeli detention center. And over the next 4 days, 150 Palestinian prisoners, women and teenage boys in the main, are expected to be released from there as part of this deal. A 2-hour window was the suggestion, certainly in that press conference by the Qataris yesterday, that after Israel confirmed safe receipt of the hostages, within 2 hours they would then release the Palestinian prisoners, the agreed Palestinian prisoners that are being held in Ofer prison. If that all goes to plan, Matthew, then it should repeat for the next 3 days. And I think there are hopes on all sides that could potentially continue. Israel has said that for every 10 additional Israeli hostages over and above the 50 that have been agreed, they are prepared to continue to extend that ceasefire by 24 hours. Qatar said that they hope that this could be a more permanent truce. I think depending on who you speak to, that might be a big ambition to have at the moment. But certainly this deal, which has taken so long to agree on, so long to negotiate, is further down the line than it's been so far. And it seems we are close. The International Committee for the Red Cross has told the BBC that 8 of their staff, travelling in 4 ICRC vehicles, have transported hostages across the border into Egypt, as we've been seeing. There was a doctor as part of the ICRC team. The hostages were handed over by them to the Egyptian authorities at the Rafah border crossing. It seems, according to sources told the BBC, that Egypt have now handed them on to Israeli security sources. And the next stage will be the return of those hostages actually back to Israel, to Israeli hospitals that are prepared and ready to receive them, and where the families of those 13 are also waiting to be reunited with them.
Demikianlah telah kita saksikan bersama-sama proses pembebasan 13 sandera Israel yang dibebaskan oleh Hamas. Dan masih ada 200 sandera yang masih disandra oleh kelompok Hamas yang akan dibebaskan secara bertahap dalam waktu gencatan senjata selama 4 hari ini. Semoga para sandera bisa seluruhnya bebas dan selamat berkumpul kembali kepada keluarga mereka masing-masing. Dan akhir kata saya ucapkan terima kasih untuk teman-teman semua yang menyaksikan video ini. Jangan lupa di subscribe dan share untuk mendukung perkembangan channel Cahaya Tanah Jawa Dwipa ini. Terima kasih dan sampai jumpa pada video selanjutnya.